καθώ στη μέση. Θέλω, αλλά πια σήμερα να φύγει αυτό από πάνω μου και μετά θα πάρω στο κατόπιο αυτό. Και θέλω από το πρωί, αλλά λέω τώρα μην είμαι. Έτσι, να τα πάρουμε όλα μαζί για να τα ξεχάσουμε. Ναι.
Μία ρωσούλα είναι μόνο.
Λοιπόν, καλησπέρα σε όλους. Χαίρομαι πάρα πολύ.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really glad you're all here today. I know that what we're going to talk about today is something that it is not that known. First of all, I would like to warmly thank PEN Greece for taking this initiative because you will realize it will be something very important. And also, I would like to thank the Hellenic Foundation for Culture that has invited us to talk here about female editors and authors, which is very important for the extroversion of Greek literature. I would like to say that PEN is an international organization that was founded in 1921, and right now it has centers all over the world. The PEN centers today are more than the countries of our world. So there is a PEN center in every country. What actually happens is that it substantially helps for the extroversion of literature and freedom of speech. For example, the last time that Paul Auster was against Erdogan, he was the president of PEN International, and there was real influence. Thomas Mann, Heinrich Bell, Philip Roth, Toni Morrison, Margaret Atwood, James Baldwin, Joseph Conrad, Arthur Miller, Norman Mailer, Susan Sontag, Dante DeLillo, and now president of International PEN is Somers. So you realize that we're talking about an organization that is very, very important for authors all over the world. And what renders PEN so important is that it does not concern only authors, editors, translators. It concerns readers as well. It sets up international clubs, international groups, where there are readers clubs, where there are professional centers for translators, where there is problem about the freedom of speech or imprisonment, unfair imprisonment of people. So we were notified by PEN International that for every country they would like us to recommend 10 female authors that are worth reading. You realize that this is very important because in the English-speaking world they read only English authors. They don't know us and things are difficult for us. So we thought that this is very, very important for a small country and for a language like ours. So we set up a 3-member team committee comprising Mrs. Sofia Georgandi, who is the president of the PEN Greece Committee for Women, and Mrs. Ekaterini Franco, who is a literary agent in Greece, and Manolis Poublis, who is not with us today, but I know you all know him. He's a journalist. He's very well known. And they ended up to these 10 books, and we wanted to continue this initiative. And every year we wanted to issue a booklet that will go to all book fairs, even to book fairs where we don't have a strong presence. But in London Book Fair, for example, where Greece has a strong presence, and in all other book fairs, we would like to have such a booklet recommending 10 Greek authors every time. So, I will ask first Mrs. Sotiria Georgandi. Sotiria Georgandi has studied law and English literature and has dealt in depth with issues of literature, music, and theater. Mrs. Georgandi was president of the 3-member committee, and I would like her to tell to us about the guidelines that were given by PEN International and which should be these 10 women or 10 literary works you recommend. I think the first contact was done in a meeting of PEN International. The aim was to select 10 works we believe are really worth to be read abroad. This could be poetry or essays or novels. What mattered was that the authors were female authors, women, and we wanted to have contemporary authors that are alive and are active nowadays. This would be the starting point for discussions, for presentations abroad, for reading clubs. And we were, based on this criteria, we were free to choose the 10 recommended authors. And why only Greek female authors? Why not Greek male authors? In 2024, isn't so important to recommend female authors? For example, PEN has 4 committees. One is for women in jails, for example. And why is it so important? This is a question that is very often posed to us. I hope we reach a point that this is not necessary, but still it is necessary. Although we have a great number of female writers, still, we feel that in the international fora, not enough space is given to female writers' voices. Maybe the decision makers don't let enough space, and I would like to say that we're fortunate enough to be in a European country where there is no officially there is no gender discrimination. It's a different matter if it does exist in reality, but also we have countries where there are authoritarian regimes and female voices are not given the opportunity to be heard at all, and there is tremendous female oppression in these countries. So if we make a step behind and we see the big picture, yes, indeed, there is this requirement to give priority to female authors. After Virginia Woolf, it was that women started being able to write easily, and here in Greece it took more. For example, in the 30s, women, female authors were not mentioned at all. Also, female personalities such as Alexiou, Melpo Alexioti were not mentioned before during the 30s. So there is still a lot of work that has to be done in this sector, and also a lot of work has to be done with regard to female literature being considered equally important as male literature. We shouldn't have such labels. And how many books did you go through to end up in these 10 books to recommend? We started with 50 books in the beginning. There were constant dialogues, discussions, too many mails. One concern of ours was the representation of different genres, and we decided to focus on novels, narratives, and a little bit on poetry and children's books. But our main concern was to have as many genres possible represented. Yes, I absolutely agree with you. We have difficulties due to our language, because Greek is considered a minor language. And we'll go on with Mrs. Franco. Mrs. Franco is a literary agent representing foreign and Greek authors in Greece and abroad. She studied Greek literature in Athens and French literature in Paris. In 1995, she founded the literary agency Iris. She was the first literary agent in Greece representing Greek authors abroad, and since 2000 she came back to Greece representing authors as primary agent. So, Mrs. Franco, you seem to be the only female literary agent in Greece today. So you used to be the only one. Things were different, and now you are again the only female literary agent. So what were the criteria based on which we selected these 10 books? And apart from the criteria that were set by PEN International, did you have your own criteria? You come in contact with people abroad. So what exactly happened throughout this process? Indeed, the biggest difficulty was that we have a great number of books written by female authors, and it was impossible for us to read all of them, particularly the most recent ones. So we should say that we made a selection, bearing in mind that it will be repeated next year as well. So with this, having this in mind, we said that we will focus on those that we have available. We excluded some age groups, but based on the successful course in Greece and abroad. So we said that we will help more female authors that have been for years in our list and remain untranslated, and who have some more particular voices. That is, we're not talking about classic novels or family stories, but there is something different, a bit more modern, nuance. I don't like the word modern, more updated. We didn't want it to be too radical, too pioneering, but having a particular style of writing and a more open spirit in literature. And so I had some favorites for sure, but we wanted to be objective, of course, and impartial. So the booklet you can see here has been presented at the International Book Fair of London. And how was it accepted abroad? From your experience as an agent, is it an agenda of books that is promoted in a very classic way? Maybe we need something new, something more grand, as we say, something more pioneering and innovative than just a booklet. For sure, any material we give in English to any foreign editor is useful, even a small card, let alone a booklet. If it was bigger in size, they wouldn't get it because I have experience with suitcases and luggage. They wouldn't get it. So this is the appropriate size, we believe, and most convenient. We send it to book fairs, but also we send it by mail in PDF format. So far, I can't tell you about the output, the feedback, but we have just started. There we have a long way ahead of us, and I'm sure that the positive results will be there now. As a size, I don't think it should be bigger, but as material, anyone who comes in contact with us, we can send him 20 pages from each book translated in English. If PEN Greece has this potential, this wouldn't be bad at all. this would be a nice thing. We know that these 16 pages to be translated, that is the last time I was in Frankfurt with these 16 translated pages of the book. I felt like a queen because I thought, okay, they will understand what the book is about. Yes, I would like to say that this translation should be optimal, okay? Should be very, very good by professional translators and not just by someone who speaks English, okay? Because we do harm instead of doing good if the translation is not carried out by professional translators. So, yes, with English, bilingual translators whose English language is their mother tongue. Okay, let us tell you which these 10 books are. Now, we have Elena's Marosu, Theriomorphy by Kichli Editions.
Είδε η γυναίκα του Λότ, της Ιωάννας Μπουρασοπούλου, που είναι εδώ μαζί μας, από τις εκδόσεις Καστανιώτη του 2007. Η Δενδρίτης της Κάλιας Παπαδάκη.
You can listen to the names of the books.
Από τις εκδόσεις Ίκαρος το 2018. Θα ήθελα να μας πείτε δύο λόγια για το καθένα.
Tell us a few words about each one of these and how these specific novels were selected as representative. You can get the booklet. Okay, the interpreters would like to have the booklet with us. We should always respect translators and interpreters. Maybe we're talking too fast. Is it? Okay. So yes, I mentioned all four of them. Let us talk about each one separately. And then we will ask Mrs. Bourazopoulou to say a few words about what Lot's wife saw, the book. So the selected books are indeed written by very important female authors. Now, if it is female literature in contradiction with male literature, no, I don't think so. If you read the books, you will realize the term female literature, unfortunately, in some people's minds has become pink literature, but this is not true for sure. Things are different. A female author can write literature that is literature. To me, this clarification is very important. To tell you the truth, I like the term female literature, but we have to convince and make readers understand that female literature does not mean pink literature. It is very, very important. We have the experience of being women, so it is important not to surrender the term female literature. Let us not be afraid of this term. And of course, we should not have it in contradiction with male literature, but we want female literature to be next to male literature. Both of them are equally important. Let's not surrender the term female literature, okay, but then we should use the term male literature as well. Because if we talk about female literature without using the term male literature, what's the point? Yes. But when we have elections, we use quotas about how many women are nominees, and things are a bit confusing because we are at a borderline point, we should say. So I think that it is important not to surrender the term female literature. We should not refuse it. We should not deny this term because female authors have a different experiential experience from men. Our heroines are different when written by female authors. The visibility is different. Yes, okay. I can always understand whether a book is from a female perspective and lens, but I personally think that there is no point of this term, but we disagree. It's okay. But in this way, we abolish the magic quality of the author to imagine characters, whether these are men or women. No, I don't agree with this. But experiential experience is different, and I think women would write in a different way about female sexual abuse, because usually males are the predators and women are the victims. So it's through a different perspective, yes, but nowadays there is a book written by a male author that gives a different perspective. Of course, literature overcomes these boundaries. Yes, literature goes beyond these limits, but we're talking about the rule, okay? We're not talking about exceptions. But of course, literature goes beyond the boundaries. But in general terms, we have seen that this literature that was written until the beginning of the 20th century by men for women had specific female prototypes that did not integrate the female experience. All books of the 19th century are like this. We know all the literary heroines, and I'm talking about the vast majority. Of course, there are some exceptions. That's why authors exist, to break the barriers. But we're talking about the majority, the way that classic heroes and heroines were written by male authors. Are obviously written by male authors, and it is something completely different by the heroes and heroines as written by female authors today. Okay, let us move on with the books. Ioana Bourazopoulou, What Lot's Wife Saw, creates a very realistic, futuristic world, very often dystopic. We see a society reflecting with accuracy the way we think and act socially today. The endless imagination operates as a lens of collective social rationale and thoughts and recollects the pathogenesis that exist. She tries in depth to understand the society and the improvement of the society. Her heroes are somewhere lost in this chaos with sparkles of love that render her books less dystopic, as frequently in literature. What our author here wants is to talk about the course of life today, the social and the ecological course, and the relationships. Elena Maroutsou, in almost all her books, interacts with other arts such as photography and painting, or she refers to other literary works. The position of the woman and the way she is treated is in the center of Elena Maroutsou's interest. And this is integrated in her plot in various ways where realism prevails. In a very interesting way, her work shows that the reality we're thinking of very easily may not be related with reality, the actual reality. The Beast Light is another title by Elena Maroutsou about the ecstasies of submission and the risk of the language and the shelter of silence. A novel about limits in a love story that is transcended and the human being becomes at the same time a predator and a victim. Lina Roku, with The End of Hunger, present a human-centric book. Her heroine asks for understanding and love in a chaotic, emotional world where relationships fragment schematically humans, and the author shows this by using the paradox and the irrational and the absurd. At the same time, with a realistic element showing the vulnerabilities of women's position in our society. The book, Dendrites, has been awarded in 2017 and has been translated in many, many languages. I mention this because it is in the same PL, and that's why it has been translated in a lot of Balkan languages. Dendrites by Kalia Papadaki. She presents the lost American dream of Greek in the United States. Antonios Kabanis, who immigrated to the United States, and his son, who was born there and created his family, and in the 80s he has difficulty in making ends meet. I would like to ask Mrs. Bourazopoulou about her book, because What Lot's Wife Saw is one of the very few books that has been translated in English. You should know that we have difficulty in translating our books in English because only 2 to 3% of books in the English market are being translated. So it's a great achievement for a Greek book being translated into English, and this book received tremendous reviews by The Guardian. So I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Bourazopoulou to tell us a few words about this achievement of hers and what it was like. Good evening. I think the most important of what has been heard is the beginning of a pen and the different voices that will follow, and the course that is going to be paved, and also that one day will come that you, Mrs. Frango, and PEN executives will receive a phone call saying that we read this X Greek female author and you helped us to approach her. Of course, this experience was wonderful to be next to Margaret Atwood and Stephen Kitts in The Guardian reviews. It was like a dream. And with regard to your previous discussion, I would like to say the following. Since visibility has many aspects and art has its own techniques, while you were discussing, I was thinking that since female characters in my books are very, very powerful, I would like to say that this is the only book because it describes a patriarchic family and has all the elements of the traditional patriarchic society and colonialism. That is, it has all this darkness of patriarchy, and the colony is set up as the bad subconsciousness of Europe. So in this bad subconsciousness of Europe, I didn't reduce or vanish devaluate or underestimate the role of women and Greece. What do I want to say? Visibility has two sides. When it is very powerful, Greece and the woman, then it is too obvious. But when there is nowhere, then it is everywhere. I don't know if you understand. So I am impressed by the fact that this book was so much loved by Greek readers, a book where Greece is not mentioned at all. So literature has its own way. Thank you so much. The presence of Mrs. Bouzaropoulou was a wonderful surprise to us. Thank you for sharing with us these works. We go on with Mrs. Yorgandi in the novel category. Alexandra Kappa was a nominee with one book, and the Pataki Publications with another book. So tell us, why did you select this? The first book, The Things That Virgin Mary Thinks About While She Secretly Smokes in the Bathroom, by Alexandra Kappa. And we see something that usually we don't often see. The course of Alexandra Kappa was not usual. We move from a collection of novels because besides the literary value itself, one of the criteria of the Greek jury of Pen was to be within the objectives of PEN International, one of which is the visibility that we have already discussed. And indeed, in this collection of novels, we have a mosaic of female presences, and not only, that showed us in many different ways, through many different voices, through many different heroes, talking about experiences of women, and not only. And we believe that indeed it is worth reading. The other book, The Insect Alphabet, that stimulated our interest because it is talking about insects which are so small, but the issues that are integrated in this book are very, very big. Historical events are being narrated, and what stimulated our interest was the way in which metaphors, similes, and the symbolic language is used about such important topics. And now, let us talk about, seems to be the most difficult genre, poetry. Dino Dices in the Air by Konstantina Korivani, and Stories from All Around My World by Pavlina Marvin. We have a very rich poetic production in Greece, so I think it is even harder to choose a poetic book, a poetry book. I don't deal that much with poetry, unfortunately, because it is not a genre that sells too much, as we all know. So in this sector, I myself did not have many poetic books to suggest. So based on my very little experience, I recommended Stories from All Around My World by Pavlina Marvin. I had read this. A very, very nice book indeed, and I will talk about the difficulties in a while. With regard to Konstantina Korivanti, what impressed me was the expression of the woman's concerns and agony. I am sure that these poetry collections and wonderful, but I should say that we haven't made thorough research in poetry. I think both poets are very, very young. They are below 30. No, they're a bit older. Okay, and I really like this, that they are so young, because we are used to having Greek poetry being a male privilege. And indeed, we have these excellent poetry collections that bring us images of the female brain as it is presented so open and so expressive. I understand how difficult it is to make a selection and make recommendations of Greek poetry abroad. I really understand you.
And let us move now to children's literature. The Closet by Steria Kavalu, illustration by Jacqueline Poreraki, 2021. Stella Kavalu is here in the audience. She will take the floor just after Mrs. Yorgandi. We have great production in children's books, and sometimes we do not pay enough attention. But this book was very interesting because the illustration was great, the content was amazing. And since we have been talking about visibility and voices that are not equally heard, in this book we saw the reflection of a young child which perceives and realizes the stereotypes in which it is trapped. This bipolar structure in which it's trapped, it's just artificial. It's quite risky for a children's book to be published in Greek literature. Indeed, when you enter a store, a children's store, you see pink or blue. We have a pink store, a pink floor, a blue floor, and indeed it was great what we read. And we're talking about courage, but this is something so innocent, so beautiful, and it's beautifully said and expressed. Sometimes what is evident seems to be so bold. Good afternoon. I'm very happy that The Closet of Anastasis, my hero, was among your list. I really wanted for this book to be published. I have written quite a few books, but this was a book that I really wanted to be published, and maybe it would be difficult to achieve. Potamos Editions published my book finally, and I really wanted this to happen because even though I have a daughter, and although life for women is difficult, sometimes for young girls, a young girl can play with small vehicles or cars, but try to buy for Serios, my son, a Hello Kitty cake, and I didn't buy it for him because we thought we should protect our boy. We didn't buy to him this cake, this girly cake. Yes, indeed. So this book came up because I have a daughter. She has this kitchen toys, and she invited her friend, this boy, and his mother said, "Don't you dare play with the kitchen." But this poor boy, he just wanted to play with his toys, and I didn't know how to deal with the situation. So my objective was to show that colors are for everyone, toys are for everyone, and all this is a process of discovering the world and ourselves. Thank you very much. And the last book of our list, a special category. You're very bold indeed, suggesting an essay, Fustanelas and Clamis, by Christina Koulouri. How did you come up with this suggestion? We didn't read out all papers and studies that have been written and on which this essay was based. But we thought this was an important book because it shows this the history of the change in the Greek mentality and how it evolves through time. And I believe that this book could be interesting also to foreign publishers because it is a book that it is an essay, it is a thesis, but it can be read, very easily read by the wide public. It's a non-paper, if we could say. I think this is very important to find such studies that can be read by the wide audience. Finally, these are books that are accessible to everyone, even highly scientific books. Mrs. Yorgandi, you have a long experience. It's been 3 years. We have PEN, but we have the jury, the women's jury in Greece, which is connected to all women's juries and committees of PEN. What are the issues that concern female authors, not only as regards literature, but what are their concerns? Because as we already said, the pen is everywhere. An Indian female author has different issues to address than Greek female authors. This is a modest choice, using the example of an Indian female author. This is a great answer, because let us start with existential questions from women. How can they survive without being in danger, without their life being threatened, not only due to regimes that are authoritarian or patriarchic, but also due to war conflicts. I think during the last conference of PEN International, when we had a Palestinian poet, female poet, reading her poetry and crying because her life is threatened, or an Irani poet who has found shelter who is in exile in London. So there are cases of women who cannot live, whose voices cannot be heard in their home countries, and PEN International gives these women a forum, a podium to these voices. And moving on towards other concerns, which are important for us as well. We shouldn't prioritize concerns, but there are concerns concerning decision-making, for example. Female authors have problems as regards to the decision made on which book is going to be published. Or the concept of a female author producing a lower quality book. Let us not forget that women in the previous century used to use a male pseudonym. In PEN International, there are country members which are in exile from their countries. but we have the PEN centers in the US and the UK. We hear concerns from all countries, and we as PEN Greece, we try to talk and discuss with the Greek female authors on issues that are of concern to them. Indeed, here in Greece, we're not facing war, but the industry, the printing industry, was under a male regime, and let us not forget. Another question. Many people ask me, how do you find time to write? And no one has ever asked a man who has a family to be asked, how do you manage to write? Yes, indeed. I've heard from a jury member saying they ask about this. How, for example, female authors leave their family behind so as to promote their book abroad. Okay, I found the way to answer to such questions, and I asked a male author, and I asked male authors myself, so where did you leave your kids being here at the International Fair, for example? So as regards the controversy of the Greek literature, we have translations of Zorbas, Kazantzakis. How can we break this stereotype? It's about time, don't you think? Whether it's male authors or female authors, I think this is a concern to all of us. The main brand of Greece, under which we all suffer, is ancient Greece and not Kazantzakis. So in foreign bookstores I visit, they show me Homer and not Kazantzakis, unfortunately. So it's even worse. The situation is even worse. Homer, something more contemporary, I ask them. I wonder, okay, there is a contemporary Greece as well. No, we just have Homer. Okay, I don't know how we will manage to change this. We need to be extroverted, to visit international fairs, to have grants for translations through PEN or other initiatives or networks, or the state. The state is absent from this effort. But indeed, there is no interest, there is no curiosity from all those tourists coming to Greece. They don't seem to be curious to read something from a Greek author. There could be suggestions, for example, at airports that are translated in various languages. Some translations are excellent, some are not so good. And foreign publishers have never exploited their tourists, for example. The Germans, they never took advantage of this opportunity. So I asked a German woman who told me, while coming to Greece, while flying to Greece, I realized that I've never read a Greek author, and I was thinking. And she was an editor. She's a right seller now, and we've talked so many times. She's heard about Greek authors, but she's never seen a Greek author translated in German. However, there are some success stories. Just to give a more optimistic tone, where there are success stories for female authors, of course, for men. But there are female authors, Greek female authors, who do very well abroad. I think there's only one man or one male author who writes police fiction, Margaris. Okay, there's a book that's being translated into German, Margarita Liberaki, Τα ψάθινα καπέλα, Hats Out of Straw. It was published in other languages, but during the last 5 years, I think it has been published into 9 languages. There was this. Okay, no, there's a conflict about a publishing house. Romniosini from Ritsos is a university press studio, if we could say this. The translations were excellent. The works that were being translated were excellent, but they could not be. They were not available at bookstores. They're only available on a website. No, They don't have a commercial presence. These books, these editions. A long seller, bestseller is Matomena Chomata, Bloody Ground in France and Turkey and Italy. Eleni or Nobody by Elena Galanaki in France does very well. And a book by Maria Stefanopoulou, a great book indeed. These are great books that have to do with the female condition within war conflicts. Last time I've been talking to German publishers, they were asking me, don't you have any krimis? Okay, because they only knew Margaris. They only think that authors, Greek authors write krimis. So I'm sure you introduce your other books to them, but they don't seem very attractive to them. I would like to thank you. With Pen Greece, we will be preparing our next booklet at the end of this year. Pen Greece is a subscription-based network, but I think it's a great institution, and not just for the women's jury and committee, because it is an organization that talks about the freedom of speech, that suggests and recommends great authors, and it's a great stamp to see under a Greek under an author to have to be part of this network. We see U.S. authors, for example, have at the end of their CV member of PEN US. I think this is very important. This is why we need PEN Greece. Do you have any time for question? Okay, just a very short question, a very quick question. Indeed, it was about female and male writing. Okay, this is why we were here. How do you have these books? I am a member of PEN. How can you get my books? Do I have to send them? So you, as a network, how do you get to know authors? I am a member of PEN indeed, but I'm not at the administration. What are the criteria? Yes, I can give you an answer. I've been at the jury. The members of the jury are people involved in the book industry. I've been following the book production, not just under this quality, but I write, I take interviews. Mrs. Franco, she follows the book production because this is her job. No, books that were selected. I'm sorry, but we cannot hear the comments of microphone. No, these books were selected out of all publications in Greece for this year. Unfortunately, we could not read them all. We selected some promising authors. It was very difficult to select indeed. Thank you very much.